Okay, I'm looking kind of green and blue today, and somewhat grey. I think the reason I'm rather pensive about beginning this is because I'm really rather a simple man, and when I encounter the um, detailed and the specifics that are necessary for a happy state, in practical terms, hands-on operations and so on and so on and so on. Um, Motivation of the people has always really relied on um, money, hiring people to do things for you. Uh, and Idealists like myself who long ago, I guess, in a low Anglican church were encouraged to see money as really a rather evil thing, entrenched in our society, and that we should do our very best as Christians to remain free from. That was confirmed in me as an individual by a friend of my friend Oshok, who was with Oshok's Concerned Fathers group at that time. He was an Englishman and he was a medical doctor, and he said, "Well, you know why that is. It's because you're the servant class, and of course you're discouraged in every way to give any real serious value to money. The reason being, of course, that then we'd have to give you more." Well, I heard that. What is what a bunch of scabs, you know. And they say every man has a price. Well, I suppose if you throw in your family's well-being and a few more things, I guess one is ready to bend the knee before um, authority that knows no bounds to its evil, its willingness to do evil to achieve its ends. Now, clearly, this has been a moral and ethical issue, which has at one point found a home away from the aristocracy, at least, where business, as soon as you became a businessman, uh, you were you were allowed to participate in just about any dirty tricks and blue meanness that you cared to. And of course, in the long run, this brought about more and more levels of corrupt behavior and eventually leads to the breakdown in the society that we see today, where the contradictions that Mao Zedong pointed out have never really been seriously entertained with a scope that goes beyond the partisan, the political, and the ideologues who have established their right, I suppose, through academic excellence or reading a lot or writing a lot or whatever they do, to achieve the eminence that they require to fit in to the aristocracy's uh, view, which is that we should participate, uh, following Albert Pike's best suggestions for depopulation of the world, with the final Armageddon of evil, which was intended to not only destroy what was left of the Middle East and the peoples of the Middle East, and goodness knows now, I suppose you can wipe people out without destroying infrastructure, and certainly people are made afraid of all these things. But the fact of the matter is, goodness will prevail, and what I mean by that is none of these evil outcomes will be actually happening. And the reason being that our friend with WikiLeaks and that um, young man for whom I have the most profound respect, that young man who took the chances, and other young men like that who have turned on their masters in intelligence. And now I understand, the aristocracy are seriously afraid because most of their deeper, more safe bunkers have been bunker bombed, and obviously they've been infiltrated. And the story that the Chinese were able to hack the American codes and the American order giving mechanisms and so on and so on and so on. whether this is a rumor or whether it's true, it's not clear, but from what I understand from people that I have met who are hackers, and I'm certainly not one, I can barely operate this machine. In fact, a lot of the times I don't, and I do good pieces. I screw them up. I don't know where they go. I can't find them again. Sometimes they're not good pieces, and so on and so on and so on. So, I'm dealing with sort of practical difficulties here, and really, I'm a movement of two of us actually, and the other lady is of no practical value whatsoever. Longtime friend, and we meet occasionally and have sexless honeymoons, and that gives me pleasure because, in a way, she's so unlike my sister as any person can likely to be, and I can still love her, and several others of my past who really have been lovers and friends, I guess. Okay, moving on back to subjects more uh, present. So, working alone, being a slow typist, I've written a lot of stuff. I've edited virtually nothing. I'm certainly looking for a good editor who doesn't mind going through a bunch of moldy old papers. And I suppose I remember my friend Osho, he was a great writer. I'm by no means a great writer. I scribble. I'm a scribbler and a talker and a share of ideas and ideals and even inventions, because I've still got a few inventions that I will see come into reality in our times, because we will be moving into a new prototypical era. You know, if there really are serious threats, as have been described and are constantly being regenerated by mythologies that take on substance simply because they are mythologies. They are, in fact, inventions of addled brains. And becoming powerful and having addled brains has proved to be a great danger to the human race. Now, I'm certainly not the sharpest knife in the drawer, as they say. And I realize in retrospect that the crack on the head I got at 18 did start me on a trail of having to think for myself, because I wasn't really sure what was going on around me anymore. And as a result of that, as I started out by saying, when you get into the minutiae of good management of collective affairs, of course, it's really, really very easy to get so tangled up that you lose the larger picture. And I would suggest that's really all that's happened. And that the fear that has been generated in high places as a result of, well, whatever. People do evil things. People do, engage in wrongdoing, and deep and sad wrongdoing. And because of the nature of karma coming on them, they carry a lot of guilt. And that is why I think you've been seeing a turning of good men in the what can I say, the international intelligence, Mossad and Rabat and all the Irish, the good people, the good men are serving the intelligence of each and every one, every single mother, woman, and child. And as a result of that, we're essentially peacekeepers. And because we're essentially peacekeepers, we're way seekers. And I think once you've found the way, it's your purpose, surely, in life, to share it and suggest that there is a way forward through a return to individual and collective enlightenment by way of individual and collective well-being, by way of a new form of sovereignty, of recognition of individual sovereignty, and going beyond all of that, and then turning all of the what do they call them? Swords into plowshares, I believe, is where I first picked it up. And maybe that was from Reverend Garrard, I don't remember. But I do remember that as children growing up, we had a lot of faith in the United Nations. And like every institution, it falls into disrepair, and it becomes pattern and only serves the interests of a really rather a small section of society. Now, we have a bounden duty, in my view, to serve the Creator by, first of all, loving one another. Second of all, finding a way forward where we seek not so much a personal relationship with God, because I think if we accept a personal relationship with God, then God is within us. I think at that point, then we have to look at creation and we say, well, how do we really respect ourselves, and how do we respect the planet around us, the environment we're in, the surface chemistry, the biosphere, as some people like to call it. Well, we respect it by doing it no harm, by looking at one another, looking for the divine in one another, because it's in us all, because creation is growing from the root, growing from the vine, the divine, and from the divine to the ridiculous, the Creator and the presence of undifferentiated consciousness, which in my view is the nature of all knowing, that sees us all and watches what we do, and prickles at our conscience when we know that we're doing the wrong thing. And that when we cease to be able to feel that prickling, then really we become automatons. And so a conscience is the most powerful thing. The most powerful thing for goodness in each and every one of us is knowing that we speak the truth, and that we don't look for any other solutions, but to walk straight forward and say, this is the truth as I see it. This is the truth, you see it perhaps as well. And when you do, then we're all one together. Simple as that. So what do we do about it? Well, practical terms. As you know, I have put up many ideas, but the simplest one, I think, because we have to go back to a simple form, and that is, we have to accept that as sovereign individuals we no longer participate in the conventions of our electoral process, that we're adopting our own process now. We will register to vote if we're capable of doing that, and being a philosopher and not directly involved in the political process, I would simply say, I can't do that because I'm still a British subject or citizen of Great Britain, I understand. And as a result of that, I'm only somebody making a suggestion to people who are bona fide Canadians of electoral age. But I think it's such a simple system. And I've been studying how it may or may not work, and double thinking myself and triple thinking myself and running backwards and forwards through my biocomputer. And because I'm a simple man, I think you can find simple solutions to complex problems by addressing them from the foundation of goodness, principles. So we have to have a program. If our program is individual and collective enlightenment, now we can discuss what enlightenment means to me. I think the enlightenment begins for me as soon as I open my eyes in the morning, and as soon as my soggy brain begins to turn over again, because probably I didn't properly cleanse my brain the night before or something, so my unconscious, oh God, John, why don't you do a simple ablution on your brain or something before you go to bed? But I'm not very good at that. And those are all practices which more enlightened people do. But I certainly believe that enlightenment begins when the light first comes into your optic nerves in the morning. And if at that moment in time you can say, thank you, Lord, for another day. Hallelujah, I'm back here to play. Let's have another say. Something like that. An attitude of gratitude first thing in the morning is very valuable. Anyway, I'm beginning to preach. My grandfather at the time was a wayside preacher, so it must be in the family. I speak for the West. I don't like it when they say the West says this and the West says, no. Hey, it hurts me when they talk about the West in that fashion.